Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Joanna Butler, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Squadron Leader Nicholas Bird. We warmly welcome the family of Private Reginald Baden Crowley, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is God by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Reginald Baden Crowley. Reginald Crowley was born on the 26th of March 1900 in West Wyalong, New South Wales. He was one of 8 children born to John Crowley, a journalist, and his wife Elizabeth. He received his education at West Wyalong Public School, where he was an active member of the Cadets program. He later moved to Sydney, where he studied electrical engineering, and he was working in this area when the First World War broke out in 1914. By 1916, both of Reginald's older brothers had already joined the colours. One was serving with British forces, while the other had joined the Australian Imperial Force. Despite being underage, Reginald enlisted on the 22nd of May 1916. Giving his age as 18 and a half, he was accepted and assigned to the 6th Reinforcement of the 56th Battalion. During his training, Reginald's father John also enlisted, but was assigned to a different battalion. John Crowley was still in training when Reginald embarked on the troopship Ceramic in early October 1916. Private Crowley arrived in Plymouth, England on the 21st of November. He was sent to camp and was eventually reunited with his father and his 2 older brothers in January of 1917. In April that year, Private Crowley was transferred to his father's unit, the 34th Battalion. In July, Crowley and his father joined the unit in the trenches of Belgium, arriving after the battalion's attack on Messines Ridge. Crowley and his comrades alternated between periods of duty in the front lines and training in the rear areas. Reginald contracted trench fever and was evacuated to hospital in September. While he was recovering in an English hospital, the 34th Battalion took part in an attack on the strategically important village of Passchendaele. His father John did not survive that battle. Private Reg Crowley was discharged from hospital on the 3rd of November 1917. After time in a convalescent camp, he rejoined his unit in France in March 1918 in the midst of the enemy's spring offensive. The enemy launched multiple heavy attacks along the Allied front, which proved costly for both sides. Crowley's unit was part of the force deployed to defend the vital railway city town of Amiens. The 34th Battalion took up defensive positions near Villers-Bretonneux, which, if taken by German forces, would place their artillery within range of Amiens. On the 4th of April 1918, German forces heavily shelled Villers-Bretonneux and its railway line, causing heavy casualties. Crowley's unit was forced into a counterattack, pushing toward the railway line with the 33rd Battalion. Fighting continued into the night. At about 10 p.m, the 34th Battalion received orders to capture the railway bridge against enemy machine guns and infantry. During this attack, Private Reggie Crowley was shot and killed by an enemy officer. His comrade told the Red Cross, Crowley was in the act of bayoneting a German officer. He could use his bayonet very skillfully. The German officer cried out for mercy, and that put the young fellow off guard, and the officer shot him dead with his revolver. I was just a yard or 2 off. Crowley was shot clean dead, and there were 2 bullet holes in his stomach. After that, we took no more prisoners. It was a case of no quarter. Crowley's final resting place was lost during the subsequent fighting, and today he has his name commemorated on the Australian Memorial at Villers-Bretonneux. Private Reggie Crowley was just 18 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Reginald Baden Crowley, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere, or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff, and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.